What's up guys, it's me, Jeremy. Aurelion Sol is out on the PBE, and I got a chance to mess around with him and try out a bunch of different builds. And I have to say that he's a really cool champion with an awesome personality, and I enjoyed playing him a lot more than some of the other champions in the past. As well, here are some of my favorite comments where I asked what your favorite change from patch 6.5 was. Today's question is, what do you think about Aurelion Sol? And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you don't, please hit the dislike. Anyways, let's get started. Now, one thing I do want to note is that during the few games that I played, the PBE was lagging a lot. It was just rubber banding every so often, but it was really impactful on the gameplay. However, since it's server lag, everyone's lagging equally, which I guess makes it kind of fair, but yeah, that's why there's lag in some of the clips, and I do apologize for that. Anyway, Riot is marketing Aurelion Sol as a mid laner. He's definitely got a lot of potential in the top lane too though, and maybe even on support, and especially in the jungle actually. People will probably play him mostly in the mid lane and the jungle for sure. He's got some okay burst, but with a nice amount of sustained damage to go along with it too, for a really interesting take on an AP champion. He's got great roaming ability and a solid amount of utility, which gives him fantastic ganks. A lot of his kit brings similar parts of other champions, but better to him. So a lot of his kit isn't entirely unique, but his passive is unique for sure, and brings some really interesting mechanics of microing the 3 stars around to hit things. And his damage is higher than I expected too, so he's got a lot going for him. He seems to also have a kit that is heavily inspired by Io, the Guardian Wisp in Dota 2 actually. So although he's cool as hell and he's like this star god dragon thingy, it's a bit of a change from Jhin in the past, who was so unique in his own way, to have Aurelion be someone who isn't exactly unique on his own, despite how awesome and fun he might be to play. Getting into his kit, his passive is 3 stars that rotate around him constantly, and deal damage to anything they hit, and they honestly do a lot more damage than I was expecting. This gives you a lot of costless, sustained damage, which gives you some nice wave clear, and there's a lot of mechanics in this kit that you can use to hit targets faster with it, through controlling your movements, the interactions with his W, and things like that. And with Rylai's, you actually get a perma-slow from this ability, so it's pretty sweet. His Q is an area of effect stun that does a pretty decent amount of damage, and at max rank stuns for 2 seconds. I found maxing Q to definitely be the most powerful option for sure. The ability kind of seems a lot like Anivia's Q maybe, but it's honestly just so much more. The range is technically infinite if you get enough movement speed, since the ability won't pop until it reaches past the range of his W, and as it travels along, it grows in size too. So if you run by it, it grows super big, almost to like a crazy size. It's also great for wave clear, costs a pretty low amount of mana, and is his main tool for harass, and I personally felt like it was pretty easy to hit in lane overall. And being an area of effect stun on a fairly short cooldown, it gives Aurelion a lot of utility, especially in teamfights, and makes him even useful when you're behind a bit. It makes boots of swiftness or mobility a great pickup on him too for long ranged Qs, and honestly gives him potential to initiate fights maybe, by running at your opponents with a charged up Q. His W is interesting in the sense that it gives him a lot of options with his passive, since the stars will deal damage when moving outwards as well as when moving inwards. So you can use it for ranged poke, or with Rylai's it also gives you a perma-slow too. I tried maxing W once or twice, but it's a really weird ability, and since his Q stun duration scales with rank 2, I found that maxing Q is definitely going to be the way to go, at least on lane Aurelion. And his E is actually a really amazing tool. You can use it for his Q with a high radius stun to get back into lane faster maybe, or just to gank other lanes. The indicator on the ability that shows that you are coming is actually really small, and the range is so ridiculous, and since it goes over walls and such, it gives Aurelion insane ganking potential, and is a big part of what makes him a great option in the mid lane. It's kind of like a bard portal maybe, but that only you can take, and that has free movement speed that doesn't rely on walls. And the tiny indicator makes this ability a surprise for people most of the time, even though it's not really supposed to be. And as for his ultimate, it's an area of effect slow that knocks back anyone that is within the range of his W. It's another area of effect crowd control tool, and it has a lot of damage, which gives him some really nice burst in combo with his Q, and the range on his ultimate is actually kind of ridiculous, so it gives him the opportunity for some amazing plays. But it does have a wind up time, so it's possible to see it coming and not too difficult to dodge if you have flash up. Now, judging by the way that I talked about his abilities, I'm sure you're starting to get an idea for what my exact thoughts on Aurelion are. And I'm not gonna lie, I think he's pretty strong, at least in the state that I played him in. He feels a little bit weird to play because you're constantly managing his passive and trying to position yourself to hit things with it. But the utility that he has to kill people and especially to control the map are really what I think sets him over the top. Now, I can't say that he's overpowered for sure, because on the PBE you play against a lot of opponents that really cover a variety of skill levels, and I think the opponents that I played against, which I'm sure you've probably noticed by the footage, honestly just weren't that good. But I do think he does have a decent chance of being overpowered, and if he's not, he's definitely trudging the borderline. I thought his landing wasn't that bad, since his Q is actually reasonably easy to land, and since it stuns, when you do land it, it just gives you so much free harass. And as long as you're not overusing his W, you pretty much never run out of mana too. And his roams are honestly just insane. Probably the biggest thing that I think would make him overpowered if he is. It's like Quinn's roaming power, but just so much better. Since he can go over walls, it's really easy to flank, and since he has hard crowd control and burst damage, his ganks are amazing once you actually get there. And with his ultimate and ignite, he can honestly start to one-shot people if they're squishy. Since he kind of wants to get into short range by walking in with his Q, landing his passive, you're probably going to want to build tank AP items like Rod of Ages, Rylai's especially, Abyssal Scepter, maybe Azonia's, and stuff like that in your build. I can say though that his passive has a lot of ability to be outplayed, since it actually has a range that extends past his melee distance. If a bruiser champion like Aurelia, Jax maybe, jumps into melee range and just sticks on him, they're never going to get hit by his passive or by his W, and so it makes it very easy to punish you if you ever miss your Q, and it does leave you vulnerable to getting initiated on, which is why I don't think he's the best fit for top lane, and since everything he has is a skill shot, he's also a little bit vulnerable to super mobile champions like assassins in the mid lane, although you do still have a lot of options versus them, since a lot of assassins might have predictable movements with their abilities, and since Aurelion has a super tanky build, he's got a decent shot versus assassins who won't be able to one-shot them like they would other champions. And although you do build tank AP items, he's far from a tanky champion, so if you mess up your positioning you can pay for it pretty hard, and he's still vulnerable to burst damage if it's coming from someone fed, or if it's coming from more than one person. But with all that said, he was really fun to play, and with decent burst and roaming, he's honestly really my kind of champion. And I wouldn't be surprised if I add him to my champion pool once he launches, and I definitely recommend trying him out yourself. Since his kit has a lot of utility, he's got lots of versatility in where you can go. And at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised to see him being played anywhere other than ADC, since his tools bring some good strengths to a lot of roles, and he's really just a lot of fun. And that's just about it. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.